we have a very special speaker with us today. Let me go ahead and give him a second. Okay, we have Vrijraj Singh with us today. He's a Google developer expert in Firebase, and he's also a chief technology officer at AppProp. Vrijraj has been into communities and industry for a very long time. He's a great expert and he's a very good friend of mine, and he has really good experience in web and Firebase. Feel free to ask doubts on PHP with he's really good in web development. Feel free to ask your doubts. Okay, let's go. Let me go ahead and show you a video on Vrijraj. Okay, let's see. Let's watch a video that how Vrijraj helped a community to grow.
My name is Vrijraj. I'm from Badme, Rajasthan. I'm the first engineer in my family of teachers. I like to build technologies, but I guess the teaching works was into me too. When I became a JDG organizer, I realized that teaching at scale is not easy as just teaching, because there are a lot of overhead when running a community. So I decided to try and build open source web platform to help developer community run smoothly. I went to the drawing board. With the help of my team, we set out to build Aura. Aura is a web applications to organize and manage the developer communities. Our team met together over Hangout and developed the features of Aura. This wasn't easy, but we hacked through all the tasks until we were confident Aura can be useful for everyone.
I just played a little part where I would just test it whether it's working or not, and I was not into communities at all. But then when I came out of my comfort zone, it feels like people are doing it together, so why not me doing it with them?
When GDG DevFest India was coming up, the Google ecosystem team asked if I would be able to use the Aura codebase to create an event platform to manage DevFest India. That was a big deal because we had only 3 days to complete, and the platform has to support 40,000 users. They had high expectation from us, and we were eager to deliver.
We work together, we share our feedbacks, even if it's negative or positive. Whatever happens, we have each other's back.
Today, there are over 100 communities in India using Aura, and recently I was approached by communities globally who want to use our web application to scale up their own country.
I think doing what makes you exciting will make others know about what you're doing. I made an impact on others' life, and that is a very good feeling.
Cool. That was Vrijraj, and we have Vrijraj with us today. If you are from Chitkara University, probably you know Vrijraj. Vrijraj had been into communities like GDG, Jalandhar communities, and he had been very active in communities, Google communities, and he's also a Google developer expert in Firebase. So I think you will learn a lot of things from him today. Yeah. Vrijraj, are you there in this call?
Yeah,
Yeah. I hope all good. Uh,
yeah, sure.
yeah, you have all the permissions. Cool.
Yeah,
Over
yeah.
to you. Please
Let me
proceed.
share my screen. Okay, I hope my screen is visible to you all, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, cool. So, hi everyone. My name is Vrijraj, and thank you so much, Ankit, for having me. And thank you, WikiClub India community, for hosting this wonderful session on PHP. So today I'm going to talk about PHP part, like how we can create a dynamic web applications with the help of PHP. So let me talk about myself. So I'm a Google developer expert for Firebase. I also lead the community name is Tech Ferment. I'm also working with another startup name is Credas, and I'm also It's a kind of remote pilot. So right now I'm doing some graduation on remote pilot part, and I also I'm working on multiple technology stack like PWA, Firebase, AMP, Google Chrome, or Google Cloud. So if you have any questions, or if you have any doubts, or if you're facing any challenges on like related to the web, cloud, or Firebase, anything, so you feel free to connect with me. I will be happy to help you. So so before we begin this session, I would like to ask few more questions with you all. So you can raise your hand or you can unmute your mic. It's totally up to you. There is no like no one will judge you. So it's a open kind of discussion. Let's make it. So how many of you are students? Okay, there are only 16 remaining. I guess 37 is from corporate. Okay, and how many of you are from first year? You can still raise your hand if you are from first year. Only one. Second year, third year. Oh, nice. All are from third year. And fourth year. Okay. The counting is up and down. Yeah, it's okay. So, okay, cool. So, do you have any experience in creating a website? Do you have any portfolio, anything? Because, like, do you have any, like, have you created any small portfolio kind of website with the help of HTML, CSS, or JavaScript things? Okay, cool. So, one more. You understand Hindi, right? Can we use some Hindi words? Okay, that's great. So, let's get started. So, uh, so let's get started. So I hope like if you have any questions, feel free to connect with me, and like there will be a Q&A session after the talk. We can discuss the confusion, the Q&A you have. And today in this talk, like first I'll talk about the web ecosystem right now in India, and then I'll talk about the basic web fundamentals, like where we can work on the PHP part, and then I will create a simple applications with the help of PHP and the database part. So here we will use a MySQL database, which is a relational kind of database where we can store the information in terms of table and rows. Okay, so talking about India in our country, so there are around 932 million monthly active users are using internet over 932 monthly smartphone devices. So here you have a great opportunities, like you can build mobile applications, web applications. You can start your own, business, or maybe you can build the solutions for the community. So it's again, you need to identify the problems, and you are the tech guys, so you can find the solutions and you can propose the website, or maybe related to the web applications. So talking about the basic web fundamentals, like in the market, like web fundamental is categorized into the three main part. The first one is the website. Website is just like, collections of web pages. We can create a web pages with the help of HTML, CSS, and the JavaScript part. So with the help of HTML, we can provide a structure to the web pages. CSS is for the designing part. JavaScript is for the, customizations, like adding some color, or, calling some actions. When, let's say, there is a button, when the user will click on the button, you can apply some dark theme mode or light theme mode. You can do this kind of things with the help of JavaScript. So the website is just like as a pages. You can create a pages with the help of HTML, CSS, and the JavaScript. So once you have created a website, we need to test our website. So for that, we need a browser. So browser is just like as a computer program that you can install in your local machines, like the Windows and the Mac OS, or uh, relevant operating system like Linux. So it's just like as a program that you can install in a machine, and like with the help of browser, you can test your, or you can access your web pages. So inside the browser, there is a rendering engine that will render your HTML, CSS, and the JavaScript code into the UI part. This is how you will be able to see the website. So if you have a experience with, let's say, PHP or maybe a C++ language, so you can write a C++ language with any compiler or maybe any text editor, but you need to run the, C++ code, then you need a software, right? The compiler, the dev C++ editor, or there are multiple code editor. The compiler are available in the market where you can run your or compile your C++ code, and you can get the outcome, right? So similarly for the web technologies, like if you have a website, we need to access a website, we need a browsers. So browser having a rendering engine that will render your HTML, CSS, and the JavaScript code into the UI part. Okay, and the third terminology is called as the server. So server is just like as a computer where you can upload your HTML, CSS, and the JavaScript card into the computer, and you can connect that computer with the help of internet, and you can have IP, and you can access the file via network through the IP of the computer. So computer is just means server is just like as a computer which is connected with the help of internet, and there is a specific IP. You can call the IP and you can access the file through the server. Okay, so this is a simple basic fundamentals. Like in the market, like we have a three types of servers, like web server, which is responsible for running your web pages. Like if you are opening, let's say meet.google.com, so you are accessing a web pages, so there is a web server. Email server is specifically designed for sending or receiving a mail over the network. Like if you go to the Gmail, or maybe if you go to the Outlook, so Outlook or Gmail, where we are sending mail, we are receiving a mail. So this kind of system we want to work, then we need a email server. File server is more about, uploading or downloading a file, where we can upload the file, where we can download the file. So it's just like as a combination of server where we are accessing in the market. Okay, any doubt, any confusion as of now? Okay, I think there's no issue. So this is just a basic fundamentals, like the website, browser, and the server. Like website is just like as a collection of web page. We can create a web page with the help of HTML, CSS, and the JavaScript part. For testing our website, we need a browser, and for for accessibility point of view, or means any users from different network or from different devices can access the website with the help of server, where you can upload your HTML, CSS, and the JavaScript code, and so that the user will be able to access your website. So this is the basic things. Like with the help of these technologies, like you can create a website and you can build the solutions. And this is a kind of like basic strategies, like if you want to start your career in the web technologies. So now I'll talk about the technical stack. Like there are three kind of technical stack. Like first one is the front end developers. Like if you are working on designing part, like you have a designs, you need to work on the data implementation part, UI implementation part, then you can be a front end developers. Like basically you there will be a Figma file, you need to convert the design file into the code part with the help of HTML, CSS, and the JavaScript. So if you want to start your career, or if you're working with the front end part, so this is the main track, like HTML, CSS, and the JavaScript, where you can go, you can you can learn the basic fundamentals, and then you can go with the frameworks and the libraries like Angular, Vue, and React. So with the help of these things, like you can create a front end applications like the UI part. And the another track is called as the backend development. So backend development is more about to work on the server part, you need to work on the database part. So let's assume a website, like we are opening Instagram. So for the Instagram, if you open an Instagram in your browser, there will be a, let's say, login functionalities. When the user will click on the login button, the request goes to the server, and server will check whether the user is exist or not. So this kind of logic we need to work on. So we can write these kind of logic in the server end. We can work on the database part and the server part. So if you want to start your career in the backend part, so there are multiple technologies that you can use. Like backend is just like as a computer where you can run your programming languages. So now I'll talk about the most popular programming languages that you can use for making your own business logic for backend. So you can use JavaScript. JavaScript has their own framework, or we can say the runtime environment that you can use like Node.js. There is a Python. Python have another framework like Django, Flask. Now I'll talk about the PHP. So here we come with the PHP part, because PHP is a server-side language. We use PHP for writing our own backend part. So backend is just uh, we can, with the help of PHP, we can pull the data from the file database, and we can share the data to the client side, means the browser. So we can perform this kind of things with the help of PHP. Similarly, like they have their own frameworks. Like if you are working on a PHP, so in the market there are multiple frameworks for making more scalable backend business logic. So here we have, for the PHP we have Laravel, Code Igniter. There are n number of frameworks are available in the market that you can use for making backend. And talking about specifically for the backend development part, you need to work on the database as well as. So for the database, in the market, we have a two type of database, like structured database and unstructured database. So structured database is in terms of like you are storing the information in terms of structured format. It's just like a relational database where you can store the information in terms of tables, rows, and the column. Now I'll talk about like the backend. Sorry, the non-relational database or unstructured database. Unstructured database means you don't have a structure, you don't have a schema, you just have a raw data. You can upload the raw data into the database part, which is kind of called as an unstructured database or non schema or NoSQL database. So this is the main example like MongoDB that you can use for storing your non-relational data or maybe NoSQL data that you can use. So I'm overview. If I talk about like, let's say I'm working on a backend part, so I can use multiple programming languages for the backend. It's totally up to you which programming languages that you can use for making your backend business logic. But PHP is one of the programming language that we can use for the backend. And inside PHP, there are multiple frameworks that we can use for backend, like Code Igniter or Laravel, or there are n number of frameworks. And if I talk about as a backend perspective, we need to also work on the database part. So let's say if you go to the corporate, and most of the companies is working on, let's say, MySQL database part, then you need to understand the SQL queries like structured query languages, or maybe you need to work on the yeah MySQL part, MongoDB part. So now I talk about full stack. Full stack is just like you have expertise for the front end, you have expertise with the back end. So now I'll talk about specifically for the PHP. So PHP, if you are working on a PHP, so there is a technical stack is called as LAMP stack. LAMP stack is means you need to work on the Linux, you need to work on the Apache as a server, you need to work on a MySQL as a database. P for you need to use P for PHP programming language, which is called as LAMP stack. LAMP stack is most the most popular programming technical framework for the banking sector. So if you go to the banking sector, or maybe if you go to the like very big giant enterprises where they have a relational data, there is a multiple relation in between the data, they are using LAMP stack. Most of the time if you go to the banking sector, like they use LAMP stack for making their robust solution, because in the banking sector there is a relational data like the customer account balance, XYZ entities. So you can create a relation between these kind of entities, and you can create a solutions based on these things. And also there are multiple technical stack that you can use like MERN stack, mean stack, and MERM stack. So this is just like a simple technical stack that you can work. And once you have decided a technical stack, and then you can start working on it. And this is a kind of goal for the developers, like we can build the solutions, we can get the job. And you know it's a kind of things like for the developers, like हर किसी को तो iPhone लेना ही है, right? ऐसा कोई है जिसको iPhone नहीं लेना? Okay, so now I'll talk about specifically for the PHP, because PHP is specifically for the backend part. Like as I mentioned, like creating a backend business logic, or we can say REST APIs, or we can say working on the server side, or we can say collecting a data from the database and pushing a data to the clients or the browser, where we can use PHP, right? So PHP stands for hypertext preprocessor. It's a programming language that you can use over the server side. You can, collect the data from the server, you can collect the data from the database, and then you could push the data to the client side. Client means the browser. So you can push the data to the browser. And it's a open source. It's an open source language. Like, you don't need a license. If I'm comparing, I'm not comparing, but let's assume, let's say I'm a developer, I'm working on a Java part. So Java is a license language. Like, we need to, purchase a license for, publishing an application with the help of Java. But PHP is open source. So there is a one of the best thing, like you can use PHP, and you can also contribute in the programming language. You can add multiple functionalities. You can go to the PHP open source code, and based on the customization, you can raise the requirement PR, and then you can be a contributor for the PHP. And there are multiple big giant companies who are working on the PHP. Like, if I talk about the Facebook, since the beginners, like beginner level, they have created this entire, Facebook platform with the help of PHP. And now most of the pages are still working on the PHP part, because PHP is a flexible programming language where, it's just like as a programming. You don't need to, work on complexity part. You just need to run the functions, write a logic, and collect that outcome, and then push it into the multiple functions. WordPress is one of the best CMS in the market. Like, if you go to the globally, any, you know, most, like, around 60, 70, or maybe 90% corporates, they are hosting their own website over the WordPress, because WordPress is just like as a CMS, the content management system. So we're just totally working on the PHP part. Like, here you can, add some customization, you can inject the content, you can, design the layout. So there are multiple things that you can use with the help of WordPress. Wikipedia is one of the biggest company in terms of resources point of view. So they are also using PHP for making more, reliability, accessing, scalable part, distributing, resources, content to the n number of billions of users with the help of these things. And also Slack, MailChimp, Tumblr, MasterCard, Boeing, Western Union, Adobe, SAP. Not only these companies, there are multiple companies who are using PHP for many in multiple ways. Because if I talk about as a backend point of view, so there are multiple, if I talk about the architecture, about the backend, building backend business logic, so there is a called as monolithic architecture or microservice architecture. So if I talk about the big giant companies, so most of the companies are following the microservices architecture. So microservices architecture is just like, I have a one REST API which is developed with PHP, one REST API is developed with Python, one REST API developed with Node.js or maybe JavaScript part. So means your backend have a multiple programming languages. One logic is written in the PHP, logic is written in, let's say, Python. So you can do a multiple thing. This kind of architecture that you can work with the microservices. So now I'll talk about like how PHP is growing. Like, I'll talk about like, if I talk about the standard PHP. So with the help of standard normal PHP logic, we can create a website, we can create a solutions. But if I want to create a very large scale applications, like let's say we have created a website. Now there will be let's say thousands of concurrent users are accessing a website, or maybe 10,000 users in a second accessing a website, let's say Flipkart or let's say Amazon sales, right? So there will be let's say thousands of users are accessing a website in 1 second. So we need to work on the scalability part, like the managing code, writing a code in a best way, optimized way. So here, if I talk about the PHP, they have their own frameworks and the libraries that you can use. Like, Laravel is one of the popular programming framework for the PHP, where you can create a backend with the help of PHP, and it's give you the OOPS functionalities, like object oriented functionalities, where you can store the information in terms of structure, and then you can apply some inheritance. So all the features like OOPS is providing, object oriented programming languages, you can do that with the help of Laravel in PHP. And also there are multiple frameworks that you can use: Gent, CodeIgniter, Symfony, Cake PHP. And apart from these things, you can find a multiple programming frameworks, and the libraries are available in the market that you can use for making more, robust, scalable PHP code for the backend. So any questions, any doubt?
So I'm giving you a mic access. If you want to unmute yourself and ask some doubt, feel free to do that. I've just given you mic access. Yeah, any doubt as of now, please raise your hand and then can speak. Yes or no, any doubt? I hope you all are not sleeping.
Okay, so I guess they have no doubt. So now I have one questions, like you can raise your hand. So uh, अभी तक किसी ने PHP पे work करा है? You can raise your hand. Okay, so I got few points. So uh, okay, so let's start with the basic PHP. जो मतलब we will work on, basic programming languages, like if I talk about C++, we have a variables, data types, loop functionalities, if else logic, like the statements. So we'll start with the, basic functionalities, and then we'll work on, advancement part. So like I hope like you have a experience with C++, right? Or C programming language. Okay, that's cool. बहुत ज्यादा है C++ के. अरे बहुत ज्यादा है. Okay, so so first thing, like okay, cool. So first thing, like if you are working on a C++, you need a compiler. So most of the time you'll install Dev C++ compiler, or maybe there are n number of compilers that you can install in your machines, right? So talking about specifically for the PHP, so there are multiple ways to install the PHP languages in your program, compilers in your system. So one of the best recommendations is you can install XAMPP. So XAMPP is a software. With the help of XAMPP, you can get a program PHP language. You can get Apache server. You can get MySQL database, and you can get FileZilla. There are multiple things that you can get. So you can go to the Google and just search XAMPP, and you can download the XAMPP in your system. Okay. So I'll share the link as well as. Okay, this is the link for the XAMPP. Uh, we are recording this particular session, so like okay, but you can get the recording and you can follow the steps, and we can work on the Zen part. Okay, cool. So the first one part is the basic syntax. So talking about the basic syntax, like I'll open an online compiler. You don't need, if you don't have a XAMPP, you can open the online compiler. So this is a link for the online compilers. Okay, so this is a simple PHP programming language. So whenever you have to work on the PHP programming part, so you can you can create a website, or you can create a file. You can store save the file with .php as an extension. Okay, so this is the .php extensions, like I'll zoom in. Okay, so this is the main.php. So this is the main.php. Like you can like you can save, or you can create a new file in your VS Code editor or text editor, and you can save it as a main.php. Okay, and now we need to work on the PHP. So this is the basic syntax. Like whenever we have to work on the PHP part, so this is the basic syntax. Like we need to start the PHP syntax. So the opening bracket question mark PHP and the closing part. So this is question mark and the closing bracket, and that's it. So inside you can write the PHP logic. Okay. So let's say in okay, there's a questions or it's just like as a hand raise.
Lalit, do you have any doubt, or is it
Yes, sir.
like?
Yes, yes, sir.
Yeah,
Sir,
please ask.
I have a question like just if I want to import some library in PHP, then how can I import this? Is the syntax not? I think.
So there is a libraries like if you are working on a frameworks like code igniters or composers. So there is a concept for composers that you can install. First, you need to install the composers, and then you can install the third-party libraries in your PHP. Or if you are working with the frameworks like code igniters or Laravels, that you can that gives you the functionality to install the composers and all.
Yeah.
That is another
Okay.
concept. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so we are starting with the basic part, and then we'll go with the advancement like the database connections and the securities and the libraries part. Okay, so this is a basic syntax. Like if I want to print some response, so for printing we use echo, and then we can write some word, let's say hello, uh, like word, and then we can run, and then we can get the outcome hello world. Okay, so if you have a XAMPP, you can save the file in your local machines, and then you can open the file with the Apache server, and then you can get the outcome in your browsers. You can also create a variables like we can create a variables in PHP with the help of dollar symbols. So let's say $a, and we can pass the value, let's say name, or we can write Vrijraj, and I want to print the value in the string. So we can use $a, and we can run, and then we can get the syntax outcome. Dot, yeah, okay. Oh, semicolon. Yeah. This is the most challenging task for the developers. Like if you are working with a like multiple programming languages, because so I'll run the code. Yeah, I'll get the outcome. Okay, so semicolon is required. Like if you are working with JavaScript, semicolon is not required. C++, semicolon is required. So it's a kind of developer mistake. But yeah, so I hope you get an idea. But like about creating a data types or the variables, like you can create a variables with the help of dollar symbols. You can define the name. You can define any names, and you can pass the value. If you want to create number, you can assign number. If you want to pass boolean, then you can create a boolean variable. So this is the basic syntax, and I'll share the slide. So I'm not going for in-depth details in terms of basic fundamentals, but I'll give you the overview. Like first one is for printing a simple like outcome as a hello world that we have already done. Now the second part is like we can create a variable. So we can create a variables with the help of dollar symbols, and then we can define the variable name is color, and then we have assigned the value. I want to print the response in the string, so it's echo, and then we can use dollar symbol uh, variable name. We can also work on conditional part. So let's create a variable. So we have created a variable $t. The value of where t is 14. So we can do that with if else, like $t equal to 14. Then we can print have a good day. So you can use if else statement. Similarly, you can run the loops like you have like you it's a common syntax for the C++ and the C. So if you have a understanding with the loops, so similarly you can run the loops. First you need to initialize the default value, and then the number of times, and then the incremental part, and then you can print the value. And in the PHP, we can create a function. So we can define the function name, and inside we can pass the parameter, and we can define the proper like definitions. So here we can write the name, and we can call the functions like functions name, and we can pass the parameters. And similarly, you can create an array. So for creating an array, we need to use array symbol, and then we can pass the values inside the array. Okay, so this is the simple things like for the PHP. There is no engineering or extraordinary engineering. If you have a experience with C or C++ or maybe JavaScript, then you can easily use PHP because it's similar. Syntax is so much similar. You can follow the documentation and you get to know about multiple things, and most of the things are so much similar with multiple programming languages. Okay, any question, doubt? Yes. In the echo. Okay, the next one part is I'll give it a simple example. So let's create a HTML form. So we can create a HTML form with the HTML simple syntax, and inside HTML we can have an input field. We can collect the user name, you can collect the user email, uh, and then we can have a button for submit. So whenever we are creating HTML form, so we have a form tag, and inside form tag we can apply some actions as a parameter attributes, and we can define the methods like do you have any experience with get post put request? Anyone, do you have any idea about get post? Okay, cool. That's it. So get, post, put, these kind of requests we'll share to the server, and server get to know about which type of request, like creating a new data or collecting a data or update data or delete data. So here we are adding a data into the database part. So we need to use post request. So here we have added method is equal to post, and then when the user will fill the form, will navigate to the welcome.php page, and inside welcome.php we can collect the data from the post request. So here we can collect the data from the post request is dollar underscore post, and we can collect the value. So this is a simple things like we can do with the help of PHP. So you can create a simple website where you can add contact form. So once the user will fill the contact like user name, user email, contact number, and the query, user will submit the forms, and then you can show the thank you screen, like thank you for sharing our informations with us. Will be reach out to you in 3 to 4 business day, and then you can write your logic to adding a data into the database part. Okay, I'll go to the next slide. Now, now I'll talk about the database part. Like, we'll create a simple applications. The application is it's similar to the game management system. So first, I'll share the code labs. You can follow the code labs. Like, just a minute. Okay, so you can open the link, and you can follow this code labs for creating a uh, connecting PHP with the MySQL server or MySQL database, and then you can perform CRUD operation into the database part. CRUD means create, read, delete, update, this kind of operations. Okay, so now first thing, like do not go with the code part. Let's understand, like PHP is just like is a programming language that we can run over the server side. Okay, and the database is it's a kind of software where we can store the information, so that we can collect the information or we can apply the CRUD operation in easy ways. So in the market we have a multiple database like MySQL, MongoDB, or PostgreSQL, and number of database are available. But here in this sessions, I'm going to talk about MySQL database. So inside MySQL database, we can have a tables. Inside tables, we can store the information in terms of rows and the columns. And each tables have a primary key, and we can perform queries based on the primary key, or we can apply some edit or delete operations based on the primary key. So this is the basic concept about SQL. Or here we can write some queries to collect the data, or we can write queries over the database. We use SQL language structure query language that we can use over SQL database. So if you install the XAMPP, so you can open the XAMPP, and then there is options to open Apache and uh, the database part, MySQL database part. Then you can navigate to the PHP MyAdmin. So PHP MyAdmin is just like is a interface where you can access the database with the help of UI. You can create a database. You can do multiple things. So I'll share my screen. Uh, Okay, I'm sharing online link for the PHP My Admin. This is a demo link. So if you install XAMPP, and then if you open if you run Apache and MySQL, then you can able to access this PHP My Admin over the browsers. So this is a simple interface where you can interact with the data, database, table. You can perform SQL queries. You can find multiple informations about the data. You can apply joints. So it's a kind of it's a kind of workstation. It's a kind of UI interface for your database. Okay, so let's say I'll so there it's a public database sharing. So there might be possibilities you will find a lot of so many informations. So let's go with the student database. I don't know, there is no tables, but let's check with uh, yeah. So this is a MySQL database. Here we have a multiple tables. So these all are the tables are available. You can check the informations. Like if you can go to the tables part, so you can see the data. There is no data. You can run the SQL queries. Like if you have a understanding with the SQL queries, so you can run the queries like select start from table name. So you can do that. You can search the data. You can insert the data directly. You don't need to write the queries. It's kind of UI, and where you can add the data into the database part. You can also export. You can import the data. You can add some privileges, operations. You can apply some triggers. Trigger is just like let's say there is a one recording added into the table, then you can apply some trigger will call another actions and add some data into the another tables. So this kind of creativity or logic or flow that you can do with the help of triggers. So any questions, any doubt as of now? Okay, cool. Okay, now I'll share my screen. So this is a simple basic syntax. Like now we need to connect with our database. Okay, so here I'm going to talk about like MySQL part. So MySQL database. So if you install the MySQL database with the help of XAMPP, you can get the username. Username can be root, admin, or password can be null, or we can you can customize the password with the XAMPP. So you can define the server. Server name can be localhost. If you're running your XAMPP over in your local machines, then you can apply username as server name as a localhost. You can apply, you can add a username, you can add password for your database. And now we need to connect with our database. So for connecting MySQL database with the help of PHP, we need to call the function name is MySQL I connect. So this is a functions we need to trigger, and inside these functions we need to pass uh, like the server name, username, and the password. Okay, so once the database is connected, we can apply these things. We can apply the logic, like if the connection is done, like it will give you the true value, then you can return, yeah, the connection is done. Otherwise, like there is a false logic, question mark, right? So if the database is not connected, then you can throw a error. Error is that the connection failed with the database, and you can collect the error from SQL side, or so you can write this particular syntax, and then you can get the response from as an error from the database part. So or you can apply some, like once the database is collected connected, so you can add echo connected select successfully a database. Okay, so it's just like as a connections, like you can enter you need a credentials for entering into the home. So if if you have a credentials, you can enter into the home. Now you are into the home in terms of database. Now inside database you can perform actions like you can create a tables, you can delete data tables, you can remove tables, you can add data into the tables, you can search data into the tables. So you can apply this kind of CRUD operations inside the database. Okay, be be like as a smart persons, like once the operation is done, you need to close the connections, the database connections. So we need to close command mysql underscore close, and then you can pass the connection string, which will disconnect your database. Otherwise, like if you have already connected these things, hackers can come, they can bypass, they can add some data, they can get some sensitive informations. So if I talk about as a security point of view, so first you need to connect the database, and then you can do multiple things. Yes, you can. Okay, now I'll talk about simple things like we have connected with the help of MySQL database. Now we can create a new tables. So let's say if I want to create a new table, name is students. So the simple things like we'll write a PHP program. So this is a PHP program, and here we have a server name. This is the common thing, like the server name, localhost, username, and the password. We will write a logic for the database connections. So this is a logic for the database connections like MySQL I connect. Here we can pass the username, password, and the uh, username. And this is just like as a error handling. Now for creating a data or creating a tables in the MySQL database, we need to work on structure query language. So structure query language is just like as a SQL query. So here we have created a variable $SQL, and here it's a SQL like syntax for creating a table. So here we have create database, and the database is mydb. So if you want to create another database, you can add a table database name. Okay, and you can run the queries with the help of mysql I underscore query, and here you can pass two things, one the connections and another one is for the SQL query. So this is a SQL query, and you can run the SQL query inside mysql I underscore query. Okay, so if this query is executed into the database, then it will give some value. So if it is true, that means the database is created. Otherwise, you can throw some error. Okay, so this is a simple syntax like if else logic, and there is a functions to run the query, and there is variables where you can write the SQL queries. Okay. Okay, now let's talk about creating a tables, like how we can create a tables in the PHP. So if you want to create a tables in the PHP, like similarly, you can write a basic syntax for the PHP. You can define server name, username, and the password. And now there is another field is called as database name. So inside database, like if let's say if you have a multiple database and you want to create a table, let's say one database, not let's say specific database, then you can use you can define DB name. Okay. Now again, we need to connect with the help of database, MySQL database. So here we have MySQL I connect. Here we'll pass server name, username, password, and the DB name. So this will connect, otherwise this will not connect. This will give you the throw error. Now the main important part is writing a logic for creating a table. So again, it's a SQL query. So you can run a queries like create table, table name, and inside small bracket you can define the tick columns. So these all are the columns. Let's say my first column is primary key, which is 6 digit, unsigned auto increment, and this is a primary key. And the first name, another column, we can define the length, which can be not null. Same with last name, not null, email, varchar is just like as a data types in the database MySQL. And so this kind of we have written a syntax for SQL query for creating a table. Now we need to run the query. So running a query, we need to use MySQL I underscore query. Here we need to pass two parameters, connections and SQL, and that's it. And once the operation is done, you need to close the connections. So this is a simple syntax of like the basic things like creating, deleting, updating. So if you have created a table, yeah, Lalit.
Sir, in the last row, MySQL close. It must be to close the every whatever you have opened.
Okay, so this is a simple code snippet, but let's say if you are doing a, creating a multiple, multiple, if you are running a multiple queries or if you are running a multiple operations, at the end, you need to close the connections.
Okay, okay.
If I talk
Thank you,
about
sir.
the best practices, otherwise, yeah, it's not necessary, but I'll recommend you to close the connections. Otherwise, like there will be a lot of latencies. There will be a lot of requests.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. Okay, so let's say if I want to add a data into MySQL database, so this is a simple syntax. First one is the connections queries. Like this is a connection queries. Here we have passed the server name, username, password, and the database. We'll check the connections, whether the connection is connected or not. Now we need to write a logic for adding a data. So this is a SQL queries like insert into table name, and I want to add a data in three columns like first name, email, and the last name and the value. And here you can pass the value and you can run the query with the help of MySQL underscore queries, and you can pass connections and the SQL queries, and you can run the queries. And if the run if the queries give you some value, that means you can print the data. That means your record is created into the database. Okay, and at the end, like full form of a dice. So this is a simple die is just like as a and is just like connections. Like if you're running some things and like uh, what to say, like if you're connecting with the database and if you give you some error, then you can apply die operations and you can pass some value and the connection is refused. And like after this you cannot connect with the database. It's just like a simple things like the end, try, catch, and finally, this kind of statement that you can use. Similarly, we use die statement. Okay. The next one part is if you want to collect the data from specific, let's say I have a lot of database in a table. So I want to collect the data. Let's say I want to collect username or let's say first name and the last name. So you can use, select statement. So here we have written queries like select, and we can select the column name. So here you want to collect the data only ID, first name, and the last name from the table name. And then you can run the queries. So there is another functions like MySQL underscore nums underscore rows. That means like first one is we need to run the query and this will give me the result. And you can check the number of rows. Like if there are multiple rows in terms of result, then you can print the data with the help of while, or you can use for each or for loop, and you can print the data into the UI part in your HTML. So this is a simple syntax that you can do similarly for the where statement, where you can apply where logic. And you can where it's a DOI, right, joint DOI. So you can collect this particular variable from input field, and then you can pass the variable here dynamically. So that you can do. So so simple things. Similarly, if you want to delete some data from the tables, so you can you can write delete from table name, and where ID is 3, so the record will be deleted from your database. And if you want to update some data, then you need to use update query, update table name, set the value where ID is XYZ things. So you can apply this logic. So now let's talk about the practical part, because this is the simple things. So I've created a simple application which is called as game management system. So it's a simple applications for shopkeepers like who are selling PlayStation game, PC game, or maybe XYZ type of platform, different type of platform games. So it's just like as a simple application where user, or where the admin can manage the number of games, number of platforms. Like let's say for PlayStation, I have 30 games. Let's say for PC games, I have 40 games. So we can, it's a kind of directory management system, game management system, where we can store the information with different types of platforms. So it's a open GitHub repository. You can open this repository in your system. So I'll share my screen. Okay, so this is just a simple repository where you can work on the PHP part. So here I have added a multiple functionalities like login. First, user need to log in, and then user will be able to access the informations like user can add new game, new categories, new platform, delete game, delete categories, delete platform. So this kind of things the user can perform. So if you can clone the repository in your local machines, and first you need to run this particular SQL file in your system. This will create a tables, or you can load this SQL file in your MySQL database. So if you have a MySQL database, PHP MyAdmin, you can insert. If you go to the insert, or I'll go to the database, and if you go to the import, and then you can select the file, and the database will be imported here. Okay, so this is a game gms.sql file that you can import in your PHP MyAdmin, and you can run this entire code over the PHP code, and then you can get the response. So this, I'll give you the simple response. Like first one is the login screen. Login screen, in terms of here we have use structural programming language, where we have a one file for connections. So if you go to the connections.php, so this is a connection.php. Okay, so here you can define the variables. So it's a shared variables that we can do. It's define variable name, the value, variable name, the value, variable name, and the value. And you can connect with MySQL underscore connect, and you can import this PHP query in a multiple multiple things. So similarly, yeah, there is another PHP file I have created, check.php. Means like if the user is authenticated, so if user is moving in different pages, we need to check whether the user is authenticated or not. So we can check, first we need to include the database connections, we need to start the collections, we can create a sessions, and then it's just like we can run the queries, and if the user is available, then we can apply some operation. Otherwise, if a user is not authenticated or user is not available, then we can when user can go to the index.php file, which is home page. So you can explore the code. We have a navigation.php. Navigation is just like as a toolbar that you can do with the help of navigations. So let's say if you want to delete the game, so this for deleting a game. So here we have written a logic for deleting a game. So SQL query delete from game data, means there is a table name where game ID is A. So I'm collecting a game ID from URL parameters, and then we'll apply the logic. Like I want to run the queries. So here we have a dollar DB, and then SQL queries. And if the database perform the queries, so we can pass change the locations, and we can pass the messages. So this is a simple logic that you can this is you can do with the help of cloning this repository, and you can try with in your end. And now I'll talk about one more things, like you can also use Firebase. Like Firebase is also providing a database. uh, So Firebase is providing a NoSQL database that you can use. So you can go to the link firebase.google.com/doc/firestore client libraries, and you can follow the documentations. You can, with the help of PHP, you can connect with your client, and you can, pass the data within Cloud Firestore. You can do that. So any questions, any doubt as of now? Okay, so I have already shared the basic overview about the PHP, how we can use the PHP. So if I talk about CRUD operations with the help of authentication functionalities, like where we can apply some authentications like login, logout. If the user is already logged in, so user can, then navigate to the different pages. So you can explore this repository. I've written, I tried my best, but it's a 7 years of old repository. But you can also contribute this repository, and you can, add some improvement in terms of repository point of view. Okay, can you please how to connect Firebase? So yeah, I'll give you at the end how we can connect with the Firebase. Otherwise, like you can follow the documentations, and there are also libraries that you can use. So if you can go to the source code, so this is a PHP library for the file store. You can, Composer is a, module. With that Composer module, you can install the third party libraries in your PHP, and you need to install this library, and then you need to import the libraries. And this is a simple functionalities that you can do. You can run the date, like you can do CRUD operations with the help of Cloud Firestore. So similar things like Firestore collections, it's a NoSQL database. So here we need to, define the collections, and inside collections we can add the data. And once the data is updated, then you can get the data, and then you can print the data. So this is a simple code. So you can follow the documentation. You can easily, create a simple applications with the help of multiple database. It's not related to the MySQL or Firestore. You can use MongoDB. So if you can go to the Google or, different resources, you can find a multiple libraries related to multiple database. Here you can apply some logic. So if I talk about as a zero point of view, like if you have a, starting level of knowledge, so follow this code labs. I've created those code labs, like how we can connect the database, how we can apply CRUD operations. And I also created a repository, so you can also check out the repository. And now I'll talk about the security part. So security in terms of, like you can create any applications, like any backend with the help of PHP, where you can connect with database. You can get the data from the database, and then throw the data to the client in the browsers. But if I talk about creating a secure applications, this is the most challenging task. Like there will be a multiple types of attacks user will do, if I talk about hacker point of view. So I'm sharing a few guidelines that you can follow for making more secure, backend business logic. The first one is XSS attacks. XSS attacks is in terms of user can pass, script type kind of informations through the forms, or maybe through, through the post APIs you can create. So what you can do, you can use HTML special characters. Like if the user is passing some HTML information into your database part, so what you can do, you can, change the spatial characters, like opening bracket, closing bracket. So it's a kind of like best practices that you can, do. Otherwise, like user can do some attacks, like they can write, they can, pass raw HTML syntax, or maybe raw JavaScript syntax that will be, you can store in your database part. And this is a hard, what, like this is the dangerous threats when the data is stored into the database part, so your system could be hacked. And talking about the sessions, like session is just a concept, like where you are applying login logout functionalities. So we need to use sessions or the cookies, right? So you can use session set cookies parameters. So here you can apply some functionalities, like you can use cookies on HTTP secured cookies. Otherwise, like let's say there is a cookies which can be on secure way or unsecure way. If the cookie is unsecure way, user can get the information from the cookies. Otherwise, if the cookies is secured, user cannot decrypt or cannot get the informations from the cookies, or user cannot modify the cookies data. Another one is file upload securities. File upload securities, let's say if you're creating applications where user can upload their own profile pictures, right? So, generally, hackers is doing a multiple, operations over the files. So what you can do, you can check the mem type, like once the file will come to the backend part, you can check the file extensions, the mem type, whether the file is image and types of images like PNG, JPG. So you can do multiple things like checking the file type. So you can apply some security in terms of uploading of files. And you can also apply some size in terms of, let's say when the user is uploading an image, so you can apply some restrictions, say like you can upload the image up to 10 MB or maybe 5 MB or 2 MB. So this is a kind of security that you can do. Otherwise, like you most of the time developers inject some suspicious code inside the file, and once the file will be uploaded into the database or the server part, the script will be run inside the file, and then your system might be hacked. And also for the production levels, like if you are running a solutions over the productions, like the live solutions, so I'll recommend you to remove or disable the errors. So you can disable the errors with any set display error is equal to 0. So you can use this kind of things. Otherwise, like if you are showing the error over the productions, and like the hackers or suspicious users can see the sensitive informations from the errors itself. And talking about the content security, so you can apply the header content security policies. So this is a kind of header that you can apply for the backend. It's just like as a security level headers that you can do. Now I'll talk about the SQL injections. So SQL injection in terms of like true statement, like 10 equal to 10, which is true, right? So there once you go to the login page, you can do a multiple things in terms of SQL injections. So what you can do, you can use prepared statement for preventing the SQL injections. So you can use prepared statement like MySQL underscore prepare, and then inside you can pass the queries. So this will prevent the SQL injections. Okay, now that's all from my end. If you have any questions, I'm open for the questions.
Yeah, if you have any question, feel free to raise your hand, and or you can unmute yourself and ask. Any question? Okay. So thank you, Vrijraj, for this. It was an incredible session. I hope they have enjoyed a lot. And